morning. Welcome. We are family. Welcome home. Last night at a dinner where we met colleagues from higher education leadership and affiliate leadership, it was such a joy and a pleasure to pick up from where we had started from a year ago. For those of you who are joining us for the first time, I would like to give you a special welcome to one in a million lifetime experience, which has been carefully curated by Rose and her team, designed with our co-hosts, Pan Atlantic University, University of Cape Coast, United States International University Africa, Cavendish University, and it's powered by MasterCard Foundation. Thank you all for the continued opportunity to gather and collaboratively move us closer to our better selves. We are about 270 persons here, and we represent over 60 institutions of higher education and 20 affiliated institutions and industries from across 18 countries, gathered here this year to share and reflect on the past 3 years of building the capacity of institutions to improve African higher education institutions. I have a couple of questions, and it has to do with the review that we're going to do. During the next couple of days, I humbly ask that we optimize our short time of reflection together by considering a range of future thinking criteria as we debate, engage, and pause. In a few days, we will return to our institutions to focus on assessment as value added, to identify problems for improvement or for accountability, using assessment to show that we are already doing a great job and need no improvement, entering assessment data into a database, pulling together a report for an accreditor, and so on. By all means, let's be present in our deliberations and focus on these best practices to develop the details of our route to good assessment. But let's not lose sight of the purpose of assessment, and that is for our students to get the best possible education. Let's remember and include our university missions, which are essentially promises that we are making to our students, their families, employers, and society. Someone said, and I forget right now who actually said it, but imagine what the world would be like if every one of our graduates achieved the goals we promised them. Today's world needs people with ethics, prepared to act ethically, to help those in need, and to participate meaningfully in an increasingly diverse and global society. But how do we measure that? That's one of my first questions. Providing students with the best possible education often means changing what we do, and that means time and work. Much of the higher education community has no real incentive to change how we help students learn. And if there's little incentive to change or to be innovative, there's little reason to assess how well we're keeping our promises. How are we incentivizing faculty and staff? Another purpose of assessment should be making sure not only that students learn what's important, but their learning is of appropriate scope, depth, and rigor. Ida says we should ask ourselves questions like, are we satisfied with what they've learned? If not, what are we doing about it? When a student scores 2.5 out of a 4-point scale, is that good enough? What does the degree mean? Our own private judgments are not enough. To test good enough, we ought to compare against some kind of appropriate, justifiable, rigorous target or benchmark, such as consulting more with others, employers, graduate programs, disciplinary associations, perhaps colleagues at peer institutions, such as what we're doing here, about the knowledge and skills that we and they expect from our graduates and the degree of scope, depth, and right that we and they expect. We would be remiss to think that since COVID has been moved to the distant past, that its repercussions have too. The world has always been a place of uncertainty, ambiguity, etc. Hence the old saying, no one knows tomorrow. But COVID has heightened the whole world's awareness of uncertainty, complexity, and volatility about what the future holds. Just because we cannot predict when, say, the next crisis will occur, doesn't mean we shouldn't at least try. Try to prepare for the unpredictable, or in assessment, just because some value or concept or criteria is difficult to measure, it doesn't mean we shouldn't at least try, and this has many implications for practice. According to Schmidt, Patton, Cam, Picciotti, etc., we now live and work in a business as unusual world. Change and transformation have always been with us, but lately even the rate of change is increasing and transformation has undergone a multiplier effect. We should expect to assess trajectories towards transformation rather than determine whether the transformation has occurred, because it's a moving target. Application of the criteria will change how we think about how change happens. Truly transforming systems requires integrating several theories of change, not just one, to build critical mass transformational tipping points. Evaluators will have to emerge and engage in practice with complex systems concepts, with full cost accounting that calculates the more comprehensive costs and benefits of changes that have taken place. Adopt a dynamic rather than a static understanding of sustainability and reflect systems-level diversity, equity, and inclusion as design features from the start. We can no longer rely on the old or typical ways of assessment alone, forcing the new wine of transformation into the old bottles of assessment criteria. Yes, relevance, efficiency, effectiveness, sustainability, impact, coherence, and the list goes on in assessment still matter, but they're not enough anymore. According to Picciotti, he cautions that criteria are a floor rather than a ceiling. And as we tackle systems, Rodin observes, systems want to remain stable, to continue on as they always have. We have our work cut out for us. In order to tackle them, these systems, we need to work as a community with greater and broader dialogue and collaboration than we see now, hence our gathering. According to Trims, we need to accept how good we already are so we can recognize success when we see it. We in the higher education community are so bright, so driven, so analytical, and so self-critical that we think anything less than perfection is failure. On the other hand, if we get anything close to perfection, we think that something is wrong with the instrument, the assessment is flawed, or our standards are too low or too high. Because we don't recognize our successes ourselves, we keep, proverbially, their light under the bushel. We don't yet share with employers and government policymakers systematic, clear, and convincing evidence of how effective we are and what we're doing to be even more effective. And we haven't figured out a way to tell the story of our effectiveness in 25 words or less. That also is part of assessment, closing the loop, telling your story, which is what busy people want and need. Yes, some of us are starting to post some numbers publicly, but numbers need to be put into context and translated into information in order to have meaning. Yes, we brag about our award-winning student math team or star alumni, but today's parents, employers, and government policymakers are savvier consumers, so these anecdotes don't work anymore. Today, people want and need to know not about our star math students, but how successful we all are with our typical run-of-the-mill students who struggle with math. Because we're not telling the stories of our successful outcomes in simple, understandable terms, the public continues to define us. This week, we are here to define ourselves, to expand our vocabulary into various meanings of assessment, to take the time to brainstorm together, to come up with unique and varied ways that are peculiar to us, that are customized to our needs. I came to ask questions. I don't know the answers. We're all here to learn together. That's why we're a collaborative. Welcome to Education Collaborative's Convening. Thank you for being here.